Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to have you here. Mindset Monday. We're going to spend a lot of time today looking at some mindset things. So, some things that, maybe during the trading week, we don't have as much time to look at. We've talked about loss aversion, and a lot of people have said that loss aversion was a concern for them. Loss aversion is what we're talking about today. Why am I so afraid of losing and what to do about it? So, what can we do about being aversive to loss, afraid of losing? What can we do about it? So, this is a poll I took on YouTube asking folks what was their biggest challenge psychologically in trading. So, what was it that primarily impacted them or impeded their trading performance? And I was pretty surprised at these results. So, looking at these results, there were 21 votes, and almost half said that loss aversion specifically, or the fear of taking a loss, was what held them back or challenged their success. So maybe they're holding trades too long, or not taking a stop, not taking a loss when they intended to, or whatever it is. So half said that was their top challenge, which I thought was so interesting, but also, in a lot of ways makes a lot of sense. So that's what we're looking at today. And we're going to start out by talking about what is fear. So, what is fear? Okay. You remember this cute little guy? This is from the movie Inside Out, and he represents fear. And I just think he is so cute and so fun. If you have not seen that movie, I highly recommend it. It is psychologically one of the best movies. Really gives us, especially as traders, really gives us a good understanding of emotions and why, how emotions impact us, why they're important, even though sometimes they can be frustrating because they get in our way, it feels like. But really, emotions are a part of life. They're not going anywhere. And they're intended, they have a purpose. So they serve a purpose, even though it can feel like they're working against us sometimes. And fear is one of those that, a lot of times we feel like fear gets in our way as traders. And the reality is it's there for a purpose. So it does serve a purpose. All right. So when we're looking at fear, fear is a primal emotion. So that means it's just like one of the most basic emotions that we experience. And obviously there is really important reason for it, right? So when you look at the brain, sorry to nerd out on you a little bit. Neuropsychology was my focus, and I just think brain psychology is so interesting. Good morning, Giuliano. Good to have you back. Welcome. When we're looking at the brain, this is just a really cool image of the brain here. And this tiny little piece deep inside the brain is the amygdala. So that the amygdala has a lot to do with fear and the emotion of fear. So if you think about the brain, I don't think you can see my cursor, but the part here nearest the spine, so you can see the spine in that image in the top, the part of your brain closest to your brain stem is like, it's kind of like, people will call it like your animal brain. So like that's your most primitive part of your brain, and it's kind of like the brain built out from there. And so when you think of higher level functioning, or we call executive functioning, so high level problem solving and things that kind of make you human, that happens in the front of your brain. So in your frontal lobe, prefrontal cortex. And so you can see the amygdala is like deep in there, inside the brain. And that is, the part of your brain that is most associated with fear. All right. So just trying to get my thing set up here so that I can click between. Okay. So it's a primal emotion. And as we all know, fear basically alerts us to danger. So all animals have this, your dog has it, any animal you can think of. it alerts us to danger. And so we talk about fear as being a challenge to us as we're trading, and it can be really frustrating when it impedes our trading or gets in our way. But really, fear is meant to keep us safe, right? So you think of a toddler, and you know that we talk about toddlers saying like they have no fear, right? They don't know that if they touch a hot stove, they're going to get burned. They don't have that fear because they haven't learned that yet, right? Same with like an open body of water. A toddler will just go right into the water because they have no fear. So the purpose of fear is really to keep us safe and alert us to harm. And this can be true threats, right? Actually, that's the next slide. True threats or perceived. It doesn't matter. They can be real or perceived, and they can also be physical or psychological. Either way, our brain is going to alert us to real or imagined threats. Okay. So if you have an irrational fear, for example, it might not actually be something that's threatening you, but you perceive it as a threat somehow. Like my daughter, she hates spiders. Okay. Teeny tiny little spiders. She doesn't, it's not a phobia or anything, but just something she really, really dislikes. And so talking about a real or imagined threat, a tiny, teeny, tiny little spider is not going to hurt her, but she perceives it as some type of threat. Okay. So fear can happen. Yeah, Patrick, good morning. Who does like spiders, right? For me, it's snakes. They get me. Okay. So when we experience something that causes us to be fearful, it's kind of like a panic button, right? It's a survival mechanism for us. So that is what initiates the fight or flight response. And this is an automatic response. You think about being startled or like watching a scary movie. Even though you know it's not real, your body can still get scared, right? It's your body hitting the panic button. So the amygdala is the part of your brain that kind of starts this process, and then your hippocampus helps you determine and assess how real the danger is or not. Okay, so it helps us to put that fear into context. And I may have skipped one piece that I wanted to talk here. I'll come back to it. So when we're looking at fear, obviously it starts in the brain. Okay, that's where it begins. There's a biochemical changes in your brain as a response to fear, as a response to a fear-inducing trigger, and it's also emotional. Okay, so we feel the emotion of fear, but there's actually biochemical changes that take place. So if you were here last week, we talked about the pre-trade routine and how doing the power pose increases testosterone, the dominance hormone, and decreases cortisol, the stress hormone, in only 2 minutes. Fear does the same, not the same, does also makes biochemical changes. So we have an increase in certain neurochemicals and hormones when we experience some type of fear. All right. Not only does it happen in the brain, but there's also a body response as well. So after the brain triggers, right, sees a trigger and says, hey, this is fear. I'm going to be afraid of something. There's also a response in your body. So if you're a trader and you are fearful of your stop getting hit, you might also be aware of the body response that you have. So sweating, right? Your hands get sweaty. For me, my muscles tighten up. You might experience increased heart rate. So these things that actually, a spider or a snake or whatever can make us fearful and have a body and biochemical response, we can actually experience these same things as we're trading, right? When we are afraid or fearful, either of taking a trade, or I think even more commonly, taking a loss, either approaching a stop or actually hitting a stop loss, we can have these actual same biochemical and body reactions to this fear. All right. And again, these fear responses, even though they can be annoying, right? Because we don't necessarily want to experience that fear. Again, what is the point of all that? What is the purpose? Why do these body changes actually happen? It's all because looping back to the fact that our fear is intended to keep us safe and keep us from harm. So literally, if that were to happen, in a dangerous situation, an actual dangerous situation, your body is preparing itself to respond appropriately. So you've heard about like the fight or flight response. That's exactly what your body is preparing you for. So you can think of like, for example, your heart rate and your blood pressure begin to increase. More blood goes to your muscles. So if you need to run out of a dangerous situation, your body is prepared to do it. Your digestive system in a fear situation will actually slow down so that your body has energy for dealing with the task at hand. So obviously, we don't need all those things to happen when we're trading, but because our body is sensing fear, our mind is sensing fear, actually the same response can happen because that's what the body does. The brain sends out signals that this is a fear situation, changes the biochemistry, produces a response in the body, and we don't need that necessarily for trading, but we do need fear, right? Because if we didn't have fear, we would be in trouble. We would take trades that we shouldn't take. We would risk more than we should take. It would not be a good situation, right? Good morning, Ronik. Welcome. Thank you for checking in and saying good morning. So the goal here is not to get rid of fear. For some reason right now, trading psychology is all over my YouTube feed. Is that true for you all? I'm just curious if YouTube is just like realizing that my channel's a lot about this and I'm interested in trading psychology. So I'm just getting inundated with people talking about trading psychology. And I saw one, I've mentioned it before, saw a really great interview that I really enjoyed. And the gentleman said, I hear everybody say that I am supposed to operate without emotion when I'm trading. And what am I supposed to be, like a robot, right? And the reality is, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. You won't be able to get rid of emotions, right? Emotions are a natural, normal part of our experience as humans, but we can do certain things to mitigate the fear, right? Both behaviorally and psychologically, in order to mitigate the fear, to help ourselves be able to make more of the right decisions at the right times and be less impacted in a negative way by fear. Yes, good morning, Ronik. All right. So coping with fear is part of it. We want to have some degree of fear to the level of, I would call it like caution, right? We don't want to be fearful when we trade, but we don't want to be without fear either. I want to be somewhere in between. If I don't have fear, I'm going to take too much risk, make sloppy trades. And if I have too much fear, I'm probably not going to take any trades, right? So I want to be somewhere in between. I want to be in a state of caution, but not excess fear. Just like I always say, like turning the dial down on fear. And so the question is, how can we do that? How can we turn down fear so we have the right amount of fear, not getting rid of it, but turning it down so it doesn't affect us and impact us so much? Good morning, Russell. Welcome. Thank you so much for checking in this morning. I hope you're doing well. I hope everybody had a great weekend. It was gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous here this weekend, and we had so much fun time outside. And I don't know about you all, but it's so nice after months of cold. I'm still kind of bundled up, but a little bit less than usual. And it's so nice that, even though the clock sprang back, I don't think most of you probably have daylight savings time, but if you do, you know how brutal that is and how it can just you get excited for spring and then the clocks change and it's like, oh gosh, we're all the way back to where we started. But it is starting to get a little bit better. So I hope you all are enjoying the spring and had some nice weather as well this weekend. So, all right. So one of the things that we do to sort of keep our fear but work with it is I'm actually kind of starting to think of it more as a warm-up ritual instead of the pre-trade routine, the warm-up ritual for getting ourselves ready for trading. I do that every single day. I even did it this morning. I don't know if I will trade or not today because it's not high impact news today, although the market is looking fairly interesting this morning. But every single morning. And the reason is it really helps to sort of calm down your senses and also focus your mind at the same time. So the power pose that we talk about doing, and if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, this slide might help. So these are some videos that you might want to go check out. Let me get myself out of the way here so you can see. These are some videos that you might want to check out. So if you're not familiar, I know most of you are familiar with what I'm talking about, but if you haven't seen these videos and you don't know what I'm talking about, this is what we call the pre-trade routine, or I like to call it the pre-trade routine, and potentially a warm-up ritual is a better way to say it. So it's a warm-up ritual for better trading, but I really think it kind of makes you better at life too, right? Doing the power pose just helps you feel more confidence. This is documented. So this is not me just saying some crazy psychology frou-frou stuff. There's research that shows that testosterone increases, cortisol decreases. Lower cortisol is very important. It's a very good thing for everyone to have. And it just sort of helps us, take on our day in a better way. So and then what did I say? For better trading performance and take action during trading to calm and quiet fear response. Okay, so exactly kind of what I just said. The pre-trade routine or the warm-up ritual really helps us sort of get that fear in check, not get rid of it, not operate without it, just sort of like use it to our advantage is kind of what we're looking for. So again, these are the videos that you can check out. I created a playlist, so as I continue to add to the videos relating to this stuff, I will just continue to add it there. So if you're watching on replay a long time from now, it might look a little bit different. So as we're thinking about the following that I want to talk about, I want you to keep in mind something that we know here. So when we're looking at psychology, okay, I don't know if you saw my video over the weekend. I'm seeing again tons and tons of trading psychology people. Psychology saying trading psychology is a scam or it's a expletive or whatever. No one ever talks about actual trading psychology. It's true. They talk about behavior. So again, consistency and discipline, that is not trading psychology. That's behavior. Behavior is related to trading psychology. It's a product of trading psychology, and that's what we're going to, psychology, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video here. But behavior itself is not trading psychology. And so people that are saying, oh, consistency and discipline, that's your psychology. And then a lot of times I see people say, well, how to improve consistency and discipline? You just gotta like will yourself to do it. Or if fear is getting in your way, you just gotta will yourself to do the right things or will yourself to have less fear. Well, that doesn't work for me. I don't know if it works for you, then maybe you wouldn't be here. But if it doesn't work for you, I'm with you, and let's talk about what actually does. So psychology is one other point about this. When people talk about trading psychology, they only talk about emotions. And if you only talk about emotions or feelings, you're missing the part that we have the most control over, which is our thoughts. Our thoughts are the element of psychology, trading psychology, that is most important, because it is very hard to control your emotions, right? If you're really, really angry about something and I say, calm down, just don't be so angry, right? Chances are that's really hard to do. Your thoughts are much easier to control, even if you're having to fake it until you make it, right? So imagine this. If you're in the car and you're driving down the highway or whatever it is, and somebody cuts you off, and you think, oh, wow, what a jerk. I can't believe that just happened. And you're really upset, right? You're going to be angry. That makes sense. However, if you're in the car and somebody cuts you off and you have a thought, right? You have a thought, oh, I wonder if that's like, maybe that could be a mom in the car with a toddler screaming in the back. Oh, I remember that's so stressful. I hope everything's okay, right? It's a simple change in perspective and in thought that then can change your emotion, right? I might not even be right if I'm thinking that. That might not be accurate, but the thought itself can actually change my emotion and then will have the potential to change my behavior. Does that make sense? It could be a different thought too. You could think, oh, somebody left a nasty comment on one of my videos, and my thought was, you know, wow, that they must really be in a not great place if they took the time to leave a nasty comment on my video, right? Those thoughts and thinking, like, for example, what I said about when someone cuts you off, thinking, oh, maybe it's a mom who's really stressed. Those thoughts serve you because they help tune down the emotion. That's my opinion. It's not my opinion. That is true. But for me, those thoughts serve me better than just being mad when someone cuts me off, even if it's true that they're just being a jerk. Okay. So, really important premise of what we're talking about here. Oh, good morning, Robert. Came to say hi and leave a like. We'll watch later. Oh, thank you, Robert. So glad to have you back. I appreciate you popping in. I know you're always busy with work, but it's good to see you. And this one's hard. Jan Arden, I think. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Thank you so much for stopping in and saying hello. I appreciate having you here. All right. So a really, really important premise is to keep in mind that thoughts, beliefs, and emotions all impact behavior. Thoughts, beliefs, and emotions impact behavior. And that's really important, right? Because if we know that thoughts, beliefs, and emotions impact behavior, we have the power to change those things in order to have an impact on our behavior. Specifically, thoughts are easier to target than emotion. So you're going to have both, but it's easier to target your thoughts, to change your thoughts in order to change your emotion and therefore change your behavior. Okay, does that make sense? All right. And the reason that is important, again, is because this works both ways. Our thoughts, our beliefs, and our emotions impact our behavior. And likewise, our behavior impacts our thoughts, our beliefs, and our emotions. Okay. So take a second to think about that here. Thoughts, beliefs, emotions impact behavior, and behavior impacts thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. Okay. So the way you think and the way you believe, the beliefs you have, and the way you feel, right, impacts how you behave. Think of somebody who just, somebody said something to them that was nasty, right? And they're slumped over and they're, feeling bad about themselves and, versus someone who is feeling really strong and confident. They're going to have their shoulders back. They're going to be standing up tall. They're, maybe a smile on their face. Their thoughts, beliefs, and emotions are impacting their behavior. And part of what we're doing in the pre-trade routine or the warm-up ritual or whatever you want to call it is changing our behavior in order to attempt to change our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. So sometimes it's not real in the moment, right? Sometimes when you do the power pose, you're not feeling powerful in the moment. But the goal is to trick the body into ultimately coming around to believing something different, right? So just like watching a scary movie, for example, can trick your body into being afraid and have the same biochemical changes in your brain, physical changes in your body, right? Sweating palms, racing heart, even though you know it's not real, you can still elicit that response in your body. So we're just doing the same thing. We are tricking our body, telling our body what we want it to believe, in order to change our minds. That's how you do it. Okay. It's not by willing away emotions, willing away fear. To tell yourself, to spend your energy. Remember, I said earlier the example of the trader who was saying, "Oh, I hear people say that I'm not supposed to trade with emotion." To try and get rid of your fear just by suppressing it or something like that is really very, very effortful. It is very hard when you're mad about something to say, just don't be mad. Just, stop being mad. That takes a lot of energy to will that anger away or that frustration away. But if you change your thoughts, that is much easier to do. It's much easier to do because you can fake it. If you're mad, it's really hard to just fake not being mad. But if you tell yourself, if you have to get logical with yourself, right? So like I said, saying, "Oh, maybe it's a mom and she's driving with a newborn screaming in the back, and that would be really stressful." And it doesn't even have to be real, but it'll help you change your mind, okay? Changing your mind can change your emotions. So we know that it works both ways. Thoughts, beliefs, emotions impact behavior. Behavior impacts thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. So in psychology, we tend to think about it, like this, okay? If anyone is familiar with CBT, cognitive behavioral theory, this is, kind of the way it's taught. So we have our thoughts, we have our emotions, and we have our behaviors, and they are all related. Okay, they are all related. So emotions impact thoughts, emotions impact behaviors, behaviors impact thoughts, behaviors impact emotions, and our thoughts impact our emotions and our behaviors. Okay, you can change your behavior, right? But if any of you are like me, sometimes when I'm trading, I do things that I don't want to do. And then I think, dang it, why do I keep making that same mistake? Why do I keep doing that same thing? I know that's not the right thing to do. It's not in my trading plan. It's not what I want to do. Why do I keep doing it? Okay. It's very hard to change your behavior. It's quite difficult to change your emotion. But if you change your mind, your thinking, it's much easier to have control over that. Again, because you can fake it to until you change your emotions and you change your behavior because of it. And you can use logic. That's one really nice thing about being human, right? We have the ability to change our logic. Marina said, "This is me. This is you. This was you, Marina. This was you." Okay. So now you're changing your mind by changing your thinking. Okay. This was you in the past. This is not who I know from what you've said before. This is not what you want to be and how you want to be. So now you're changing the way you think. Okay. That's the way I was. And now I'm working on the way I think about myself and the way I think about the things I do as a trader in order to change your emotions and change your behaviors. Okay. And we're going to talk about other ways to do that as well. This is just another little drawing that I thought was helps kind of stick it in your memory. Okay. Yes, Marina, there you go. This was you, right? It was me too. And I'll tell you a little hint about what's coming in the future in this presentation is some days it continues to be me, right? Side note here, I shared that when I take a loss, I typically am okay with it because I understand that taking a loss is part of being a professional trader. Every professional trader does that, takes losses, and I truly believe that. But sometimes I have a harder time believing it. Okay. If you watched me trade last week, to be perfectly honest, I had a much harder time believing that losses are okay last week than I did the week before. It just is the way. So, the way it is. So, the point is, you're always working on this aspect of yourself and believing that you have the power to make the change. And this is you now, and this is who you want to become. Okay. I kind of jumped ahead there. I'll come back to that a little more in detail, but I just want to stick this idea in your brain, this triangle on the right. I love this, the thought bubble, the emoji face, and then that little gear. I thought it was a sun at first, and I thought, what does that have to do with behavior? It's a gear. Okay. So the things that we do, I think maybe like I should switch it to like a hand or something, right? Our actions. So just remember, your thoughts, your feelings or your emotions and your behaviors are all linked. They're all related. The easiest to control are your thoughts. Okay. You can will yourself to stop a behavior. You can will yourself to stop an emotion, but it's much easier to change your thinking and then have everything fall in line easier. Okay. All right. So let's look at trading. Trading feels so complicated and so overwhelming, so daunting, right? I know that many of you that are here show up, session after session. And so I know you're in this with me. Like, we feel the weight of trading. It is so difficult. But we can help ourselves by remembering that it's actually pretty basic. Okay. Again, if you have to convince yourself of this, if you need to tell yourself, this is what I want you to tell yourself so that you can change your mind in order to change your behavior and change your emotions. Okay. There are only 3 parts to trading. That's it. All of trading can be broken up into 3 parts. So, first element that everybody focuses on, by the way, none of these parts, in my opinion, other people maybe I'll do a poll on this. None of these parts are more important than the other. On the last slide, I'll explain what is different about them, but none of these parts have more importance than the other. They're all 3 completely necessary. You must have all 3. And what they look like will be specific to you and will be personalized, but every professional trader that has consistent profitability has these 3 elements. Okay. We tend to focus the most on this first one, which is the method. So your method or your strategy, that's the one. If you're on YouTube learning about trading, that's the one that people are going to be talking about the most. In my opinion, this is the one that stressed me out the most when I was learning to trade. Like, I spent years and years and years studying different ways to trade, different strategies, different edges, right? Because I felt like there has to be a right way. There has to be a right way. And the reality is, people come on here all the time and tell me, oh, you're not doing it right, or you need a moving average on your chart, or, oh, you don't do this ICT concept. The reality is there are a million, my husband says this expression, but I think it's gross. A million ways to skin the cat, right? It's kind of a nasty expression, but that's true for trading, right? There's a million ways to do it. There is no right way. Even ICT, I think this is so fascinating. I think there's a lot of ICTers that watch this, but here's a point that was totally lost on me for a really long time. ICT is not a strategy, okay? He's very clever. He doesn't call it the ICT strategy for a reason. It's concepts. These are concepts. So even ICT says you should take the concepts that I'm giving you and make it your own strategy or your own method, right? So there is no specific strategy. It's just ideas, concepts that you can use. And this can be really, really challenging, right? It feels really daunting. But this is just one area that you need to be thinking about as a trader. So you can work on that, and you should work on that. Another aspect of trading is management, okay? Money management, specifically, how are you going to risk? How much money or percent are you going to risk every single time you trade? That's money management. I didn't learn about that until that was secondary when I was learning how to trade. So I had read a couple books that were really helpful to me, and I realized, oh, okay, this is a little bit different. So I've shared before that I started with Investors Business Daily, and that was a question that came up all the time. How much stock are we supposed to be buying? How much of our portfolio are we supposed to, what is the correct way? That's what we always want to know. What is the correct way to put risk in our portfolio? So that is a really important part about being a trader, and that is something that you need to think about. And then the final piece is your mindset, okay? Your mindset. Your mindset or your trading psychology. So again, psychology is just the study of the mind, right? Literally your psyche. So that is your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And again, that's why I made the distinction. Psychology is not just your emotions, right? It's not just your feelings. The way you think is a huge, huge, huge piece of psychology. Potentially one of the, I don't know, they're both important. Thoughts and feelings and emotions are super important. But your thoughts are a huge, huge, huge element of psychology. And you cannot forget that piece, right? Because that's the element that we have the most power over, the most control over. And again, just to reiterate, behavior is not psychology. It's related to psychology because your thoughts and your feelings and emotions impact your behavior. Likewise, your behavior impacts your thoughts and your emotions, but it is not the same thing. Your behavior in trading is more like your method, so your strategy and your edge, and your management, how much you risk. But trading psychology is specifically related to your mindset, your thoughts, and your feelings, your emotions, okay? This for me, and I think for most traders, is a part that we don't really think about as much. I know for me, even with my background in psychology, I saw it as sort of separate. It wasn't until I really understood the connection that things really, really got a lot easier for me. And what's ironic about that is my strategy did not change. My money management did not change. It was my mindset that changed that made the difference for me. Because you're always, no matter what your method, whatever your management is, you're always going to experience drawdown and strings of losses. And for me, that really, really messed with me because I wasn't sure. As soon as that happened, I thought, oh no, is it the strategy? Am I risking wrong? What's going on here? And it was my mindset that needed the focus. So working with mindset in those scenarios is really, really important. I'm going to stop and take a quick drink. And then also, I just want to give an opportunity. If you have any questions or comments, this would be a great time to, drop your comments in the chat before I come back and we talk about like what should you do about this, or how can you help yourself in this regard. So if you do have any questions, comments, just want to say hello, go ahead and leave them in the chat now. Excuse me for 1 second while I get a drink, and I will be right back with you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so the question becomes, How do you reduce fear and loss aversion when trading? So, loss aversion can manifest in multiple ways. It might be that you're afraid to take a trade, or maybe you don't always have experienced that, and it's not until you have a lot of losses or um, experience drawdown that this comes about for you, or maybe you always feel that way. It could be either way. All right. So the way that you reduce fear and loss aversion with regard to your method is simply to have a plan. Okay. Have a plan. I know that sounds super easy and basic, but it's true. Have a plan. And what will that look like? Well, it needs to be written, right? You need to have a written trading plan. For me, I update mine all the time. It doesn't change substantially, but I just kind of tweak it here and there. My method doesn't really change, but certain things will come up for me that I think, oh, I probably should add that to my trading plan. Or maybe for a while I do something. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm in the way again. Maybe I do something for a bit and then I realize, this really isn't working for me, and then I will take it out. So having a trading plan that is written is really important. You want it to be based on an edge. And like I said, strategy and edge related content is all over YouTube. Okay. I really like ICT. Those concepts are really they're really great. They're valid concepts. I know it can be a little daunting to learn ICT. You can do it though. For many of you coming back time and time again, I know your commitment and I know that you're serious about wanting to be a trader. And I don't believe that you would be coming back looking for trading psychology assistance or information unless you were serious and dedicated to being a trader. In fact, I think you're probably better off than many folks who are not focusing on trading psychology at all. And so I know your commitment. I know how challenging it is to learn trading in general, but ICT again can be really daunting. But I think it's worth it for you to look into that. The 2022 model is again very daunting, very challenging, very time consuming, but it is a great place to start. You're welcome to learn the strategy that I use. I would consider myself an expert in psychology and like a practicing trader. And so, again, you're welcome to learn from me. I would not try and say I'm an expert at ICT concepts, but we can work on that. And again, you're welcome to watch me trade and learn in that regard. Gil Ben-Hur has some really excellent videos on supply and demand. I highly recommend his content. He is from the 5%ers, which is a Forex prop firm. And even if you're not, maybe you're interested in Forex, maybe you're not, but his content is really good. That is how I originally came up with my strategy, is from learning from him. And then also Mehdi Kaplan is another YouTuber that I watched, and he taught me market structure break. I did not know what a market structure break was when I first came up with my strategy, and that really helped. So the point is, your edge and your strategy is personal to you, and you can look around YouTube and come up with something. I made a couple of videos on back testing and why I sort of am not a huge proponent of back testing. I don't think back testing is bad in all. I just think that back testing, I've spent years back testing strategies because I thought that would help me understand the market better and help me with my edge. And what I realized after years and years of like minute, attention to detail is, it's better when you back test to look holistically, to step back and say, okay, what are the concepts that work? All right. Supply and demand is a concept sort of holistically taking a step back that you can see play out in the market. And So that is an edge in the market. Um, excuse me. ICT concepts is another example of an edge in the market. Okay. So my recommendation is when you back test, don't do it like how people say, oh, you play by play, bar by bar. You're missing the emotion and the psychological components when you're doing that. So doing it some is fine, but I wouldn't spend, like I did, hundreds of hours doing it, because it's just the concept that you need to test, not the nuances. Like, again, for a quick example, I used to back test the strategy, and then I tweak, like, okay, is 1.5R the best place to take profit, or 2R, or 3R? What's the best way? Oh, well, with this strategy, it turns out that 2R was the best. Okay, that's not real, right? One, psychologically, the emotion isn't there. And two, that's what happened in the past. What you want to take away is the concept. That's a little bit of a ramble. I hope that helps, but that might be confusing. And then forward testing is a really great way to test out an edge as well. So forward testing could be either paper trading. I love paper trading on TradingView. It's very much simulates actual trading without risking your money. And the way that you enter a trade, execute a trade, the noises you hear, all of that is very, very similar to actual trading. And so it's a really great way to practice. And then the third way you can forward test is, if you are willing, you can use your own personal money. As someone who started that way, I would not recommend that. It would be better, in my opinion, to buy a challenge from a firm, whether it be like a futures, like Top Step. That is a small amount of money. Like, let's say for a Top Step challenge, you pay $150 to do their challenge. That's a much smaller contained risk than what you could actually lose, and what I actually lost when I was starting out trading my own capital. So that's just my thought on that. Marina, I need to define the word edge, because I heard it everywhere, but I'm not sure that I understand 100% what that means. Oh, thank you for that up. An edge in the market is basically, wow, that's actually hard to define. It's what you do that, or what action you take that has a higher probability of a certain outcome. Wow, okay. Let me think if there's a better way I can say it. So let me give you an example. If you're buying on a pullback, okay, so let's say there's a pair or a stock or whatever that is trending upward, okay, your edge might be waiting for price to pull back, entering, and then expecting it to go higher. So it's a way that your edge is basically like what you do in order to sort of put the probabilities in your favor. Does that make sense? I'm not really sure how to verbalize. So for example, my edge is looking for supply and demand areas, right? So areas that I think there might be a reaction. Also looking for strong breaks in the market to sort of indicate to me where price may turn, and using that to sort of give me an idea of what might happen. So ICT concepts, for example, you're familiar, I think, with a sweep, right? So where price kind of comes down and like takes out the liquidity, sweeps the liquidity. That's a way that ICT gets an edge, or like enhances probability in his trading. Does that make sense? Let's see what is trading edge. Also, there's a really good book. I am going to come back to you on the name of the book, because I'm thinking it's one thing, but I'm not. It may be a different. It might be a different title. So I will get back to you on that. But yeah, so your edge is basically kind of what it is that what you do that has a higher probability of success in the market. Okay, so like your strategy. And when somebody says, oh, this strategy has edge, what it means is they're saying that it has a higher probability of success. Okay. Instead of just like, taking a trade wherever. And other people would likely also say their edge is in something other than their strategy. I typically talk about the method as where your edge is, but you could also say your edge is in, something about yourself, exceptional psychological fortitude or something like that. That could be your edge. I think most people stack edges in all three of these areas. But specifically, most people talk about it with regard to your method or your strategy. Basically, what it is that produces more gains than losses over time. I hope that makes sense. All right. And then, all right. So we talked about, let me get this cleaned up here. We talked about a trading plan. So if you don't have a trading plan written, again, not that this is the most important or should be the first thing that you're working on, but I think it makes a lot of sense to start with a method. And if you're not sure if your strategy has edge, I think it's worth writing out a strategy and just assuming it does. Okay, so you're going to want to back test it, like I said, just casually, right? So hey, do these supply and demand zones that Gil talks about, or whoever it is that you're watching, does that actually seem to play out on like a not zoomed in level, right? So you're kind of backing up and saying, yeah, is he right? Does that actually seem to play out? Write a trading plan based on that, and then you can test it, whether you're, back testing a little bit or just looking at how price moves or forward testing it. All of those things can be helpful. So with risk management, again, you need some type of plan, right? I know that's kind of, probably a lame answer, but let me go back to method. When you are fearful or aversive to loss, having a solid method or a plan for how you're going to trade in the market is really helpful in reducing fear and risk aversion. Okay. And the reason is, you'll hear me talk about all the time, when I take a trade, I'll say two things. I'll say, it's a valid trade. That means for me, it's a valid trade, part of my trading plan. And two, I risked appropriately. Okay. And with that, I'm saying the management piece, the risk piece. So again, you need to have a plan for how you're going to risk. There is no right or wrong answer. I can give you some opinions, what I think and what I do, but your plan is going to be specific to you. So you want to know how much you're going to risk, whether that's a dollar amount or a percentage amount. And there's a lot of great information on that. ICT, I think it's in the 2022 model playlist on his channel. I think it's like the 40th or 41st video where he talks about, I think it's one of those. I'll have to look back, where he talks about a risk management plan. You can probably Google or search on his channel as well. He talks about his plan, which is basically he's using 1% just as illustration purposes because it's easy to talk about. He says when you're starting a challenge or you're starting to trade, you risk 1%, right? If you lose, you risk 1% again. And if that trade loses, so you lost 1% and 1%, then you half your risk. So then you would drop down to 0.5% risk. And then if you lose again, you would continue at 0.5%. If you lose again, you drop down to 0.25%. So you basically half it again. And you keep it at that level until you recover half of your losses. So if you're risking 1%, you lose, risk 1%, you lose. You don't increase, and then you drop down to 0.5%. You don't increase back to 1% until you've recovered half of your losses. So he goes really into depth in that video. You can watch that. For me, I I learned that from him. I was already risking like 1%. Um, but I really love ICT strategy because what happens is as you get into drawdown, right? That's the part that's hard. It's not hard to risk when you're in profit, but as you get into drawdown, it becomes more and more challenging to take a risk. And therefore, reducing your risk as you're getting deeper and deeper into drawdown can be really, really helpful. And so that's the idea behind that. I personally I consider it sort of a variation of ICT's risk management plan that he gives on his channel, which is if I'm risking 1%, I'm going to cut my risk sooner. So I don't want to take two trades, especially for prop firm funding. If you're trading prop firm, if you risk 1% and 1% and you've lost 2%, that's a pretty big chunk to be down. So I prefer to risk 1% and then reduce to 0.5% if I take a loss, and then reduce again to 0.25%. But I will say, I think it's really interesting. A lot of people risk way less than that. ICT will talk about how he trades, where he sometimes will risk as much as 2 to 5%. That's big league. You don't, if you're new to trading, you don't even want to get remotely close to that. But he doesn't take as many trades as a lot of day traders do. I know he's day trading, but he is very calculated in his trades. And then when he goes in, he goes big. For most of us, I think we're not there yet, right? That's ICT's in a different league than most of us. Kyle, he is one of ICT's students that's on YouTube, is a great resource as well. He talks about only ever risking 0.25% all the time. That's what he keeps it at. I'm not sure that he actually in practice does it all the time, but that's what he talks about, doing 0.25%. And a lot of people say that. So there's all different kinds of ways to risk, and you need to know what it is for you. Also in stock trading, it's a little bit different because sometimes traders will look at like the entire portfolio and risk it that way. But whatever it is for you and however you're going to do it is important. Good morning, Summer. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for checking in and saying hello. It's great to have you here. I think you might have been here before once a while ago. So thank you so much for commenting and checking in. So again, you need to have a plan for yourself specific to you. I'm happy to share. I don't have it loaded right now, but I can share in the future. If someone is interested, go ahead and just ask me in the future and I can share. I have a written plan that I use for how I risk. And, it's a little bit different now that I'm trading futures in Forex. If you're a Forex trader, you know that you can risk a specific dollar amount. And if you are trading Forex, I have a couple videos on my channel about position sizing and a bot that I used on MT5 to calculate position size for me precisely. In futures, it's a little different because you can only trade whole number lots. So 1 lot, 2 lot, 5 lots. You can't do like 1.32 lots. In Forex, you can. So that's a little bit different. But again, it's really important that it be written somewhere in plan so that you remember when times get tough, you don't forget what was it that you committed to doing. And you can revise it. So nothing says that just because it's written, you can't revise it, but it is important to have it written. All right, next on to mindset. So the trading psychology piece, mindset, and probably not going to come as a big shock. What do you need here? You just need, get myself out of the way. You just need, I know, big surprise. You need a plan. Okay. You need a plan. And that's what it takes. Okay. So our plan, this is what we do on this channel. A lot of times we go through, I give you a plan in this regard, and you can either take what I offer, or you can modify it, make it your own, or you can come up with your own plan. So it's just a mindset plan. I call it on the channel. It's called the Pre-Trade Routine. It's basically a mindset warm-up. If you haven't seen the videos, I encourage you to go through that playlist. It's just a plan to get ourselves ready specifically for the trading day. But I even think it's great to do, like today. I think it's pretty unlikely that I take a trade today, but I even did it this morning because it really helps me focus for the week. Like, what is it I'm going to be doing? Okay, there's 5 steps. I've kind of added a 6th bonus step, and it's super easy. So it only takes 5 to 10 minutes. When I start, I just added the 10-minute countdown on YouTube. So if you were here first thing this morning, you saw there was a 10-minute countdown. And when that countdown is going on, I'm actually here doing my pre-trade routine. And so if you intend to come and watch this channel, I invite you to do the same thing. As the countdown is going, go ahead and do your pre-trade routine. Even if you get here a couple minutes late, it only takes, you can do it in 5 minutes. I usually am like somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, maybe more like 7 to 8 minutes. And it's easy, it's fast, it should be a part of what you're doing, and it makes such a difference. I promise you. I dare you to do it for, a week or 2, even a month, and come back and tell me it didn't change things for you. If it doesn't, I want to know about it. If you commit to doing it every day for a month and it makes no difference to you and you're trading, please come back and tell me, because I would like to know. Likewise, if you do it even for a week, it took me a week. It was less than a week. The first day I thought, oh, wow, this really actually, I do feel different. But if you do it or even a week or 2 and it makes a difference, please let me know. I would love to hear that. Hi, Bravo. Welcome back. Good to have you. So the mindset plan, you can write this down too, add it into your trading plan, what you intend to do and why. In the videos that I did, I tried to give an explanation as to why we're doing these steps. So, why do you want to visualize yourself winning and losing? Why is that important? Why are you doing the power pose? Knowing that, again, the thought and the understanding of why you're doing it changes your behavior. I know why it's helpful, and therefore I change my behavior and I do it because I know it makes a difference. Okay, so let me talk about this real quick. This is something to consider. You can do your come up with your method, your strategy, your edge, whatever you want to call it. Come up with your method, and when you have it, that box is checked. So for me, I have a strategy that I use every day. I've shared it with you. There's kind of 3 parts. I've only really explicitly talked about 2 parts, and I'm going to start talking about the 3rd part as well. It's the strategy that I built. I'm not exactly sure how to say that. The strategy that it's not created, doesn't feel authentic. I collected. I'm not sure what word to say. The strategy that I put together initially, again, I said that was built on supply and demand, looking at strong breaks in the market. And then I sort of refined and improved by incorporating some ICT concepts. There's my strategy. I also trade the 2022 model. That's ICT's 2022 model. And then another piece that I've mentioned, but I haven't been as explicit about and will be more explicit about going forward, is the Judas swing, trading the Judas swing. Again, that's an ICT concept. Even if you're not interested in trading the Judas swing, I highly recommend that you check out ICT Inner Circle Trader. Make sure you're at Inner Circle Trader and search on his page for the Judas swing. Even if you don't intend to trade that specifically, it really helps you understand the market and understand price action. So what I'm trying to say here is your method, once you have that, you can check that box, right? So you can write out your plan, have a method, check the box. I would say for me, I basically have that. So people ask me all the time about, oh, do you trade this strategy? Do you trade that ICT strategy? And I sort of feel like my box is checked for right now. I have no reason to really to make you know to, to trade anything else. And then your risk management, you can check that box as well. Once you have a plan, this one takes way less time, I think, than your method. Once you have that checked, you're done, right? So you need a plan for risk management. My recommendation is to err on the side of risking less rather than risking more. If you all are interested in hearing more about how I specifically risk, go ahead and let me know. We can either do that today or another day. That is a box you can check. And what makes trading psychology interesting is you never actually check this box. If I could interview ICT, I would love to interview ICT and ask him about his trading psychology, because what people ask him about is his method, right? His method, his concepts, how he trades, what he does, okay? And then we also know he shared about his management. I would want to ask him about his mindset, because mindset is something that is continuously evolving and changes, okay? If I had to guess, I would say ICT, his method has not changed in years. His management has not changed in years, but he has to continuously work on mindset. I don't want to speak for ICT. This is my guess. This is my assumption. Again, if I ever got to ask him, this is what I would ask him: is how his mindset evolves. Because even think about if you follow ICT and he's talking about right now loss, right? His his mother-in-law is sick and he's going through that, and the emotions around that, and how that impacts his trading, right? He's shared on his page, taking a break or things like that. So mindset continually evolves, and you can get better mastery over it. I'm sure ICT has very solid mastery over his trading mindset. But again, it evolves. You never check that box there. Because, for example, let's say you're a brilliant trader, you got your method, you've got your money management, risk management, and you wake up in the morning and you have just a terrible fight with your spouse. Your kids are a mess, something catastrophic happens overnight, right? You need to check in your mindset, right? Your strategy and your money management, they're good, but your mindset still has to be assessed, worked on, managed. That doesn't go away. So that's it. That's all I have for you on reducing fear and loss aversion. I hope that helps. I know many people are struggling with fear and loss aversion. And, I hope that you've heard something here, found something here that, kind of is something that you could work on. And I know for me, I've talked about before, I'm a shiny object person. I see shiny objects everywhere. I like to do 100 things at once rather than one thing at once. But I would really challenge you, even if it's not trading psychology that you're working on right now, if that's not front and center for you right now, pick one thing and really focus on it and check that box first. So if that means like you already have a method that you're working on, but you haven't written it out yet, maybe that's what you work on this week. Or maybe you have your trading plan, you're good to go, but you never really thought about how you want to risk. Another example is your risk management. You can keep it the same at all times, but it is helpful, especially if you're doing prop firm money, to imagine like coming up on an accident, you pump the brakes, right? If you're coming up to a hazard area where there's an accident, you pump the brakes and slow down. You need to do that same thing in trading. In my opinion, you can do whatever you want, but I have found after trading prop firm, especially, it's true in your own, if you're trading your own money, but especially in prop firm, because there is a limit, right? There's a hazard line. You need to pump the brakes as you approach that hazard. And likewise, as you move into the highway and it's a bright sunny day, the roads are clear, no traffic, you might accelerate. You don't want to speed. You don't want to get busted for speeding or anything like that. But you can hit the gas a little bit and coast a little bit better. I personally, again, that's what I do. I pump the brakes hard, and I found out as I evolved trading prop money, I had success and not success sometimes. And I found that the best strategy for me is to know to really pump the brakes. The shallower you can keep your drawdown, the easier it is to come out of that and to move ahead. Sometimes we mess that up, and that's life. But the sooner you can pump those brakes, the better off you are. And yeah, so if risk management is what you need to work on, do that. Do it for a week or two. Focus on that. If you've got your method in your management and psychology, maybe it's psychology that's really messing you up. Maybe that's the area that you really need to focus on. Ideally, you can kind of work on all three of them, but I would encourage you to really, really pick one area, right? And call it the dominant trading theme in the pre-trade warm-up. The dominant trading theme, what you specifically are going to focus on and emphasize, for the time being, what you want to be your focus, and it will be much easier then to come back and improve at that. So, all right, let's see what else. Chino, good morning, welcome. Russell, thank you. This was great. That's exactly what I need to work on. I've been funded multiple times. Know my strategy works. It's my psychology at this point. Yeah. I would say, honestly, I would say, Russell, same. Like, it's not my strategy that gets me in trouble. It's not. Sometimes it's my risk management, right? Sometimes it is. But even that, it comes back to the psychology. Just like I shared last week was much harder for me to take a loss than the week before. And I had to think about, like, whoa, what is it about right now that's going on that's making it harder for me to take a loss? Because that is really key for me. I think for most people, but for me, it's really key. I have to be able to take losses, and I have to be okay with it. And when I'm not okay with it, that's when I get in trouble, and that's when I struggle. And I need to sort that out and figure that out. So yeah, thanks for sharing. If anybody else wants to share, like what they want to work on, I would love to hear from you. And going forward, like, how can I help? I really like the idea of Mindset Monday. I think it's really fun. And I know for me, when I'm trading Mondays that have no high impact news, I don't trade as well. There's not the same volatility in the market. And so it doesn't mean I won't ever trade. And in fact, I am looking at the NASDAQ and have been looking at the NASDAQ today because there's some interesting things going on. But I personally need to be extra careful on Mondays, especially, like I said, when there's no high impact news. And so I appreciate y'all going along with me and doing this. And I feel like I'm talking to myself just as much as I am to everybody else when I'm focusing on these things on Monday, because I'm a trader too, right? Like, I have a background in psychology, but every day I'm applying these things to myself. And you should know that if I was thinking about this weekend, no one has ever said this, but I wondered last week when I was talking to myself about, trading and losses and, all those things. I wondered if anyone ever says, wow, that's fake. Nobody's never ever commented that, but I wonder if they ever think that. And the reality is, sometimes it is. And it's not fake for YouTube. It's not fake for you. It's fake for myself. Last week, I was faking more than usual to convince myself that losses are normal. They're a part of trading. You took a valid trade. You risked appropriately. But I needed to fake harder for myself last week than I typically do. And, that's just part of it. So it's been really fun, being able to share this with you all. And I think it's really cool that you all are interested in psychology, and making this a part of what we do is really fun. And I love that y'all, obviously, you keep coming back. So you're interested in psychology, and also obviously we all love trading. And so this has been really fun for me and really exciting to have, this community. Y'all are so faithful and fun, and it's been really great. So I'm thankful to you for coming back and for engaging and being a part of this channel. Marina says, my psychology is my problem too. I think I said this before, but at the moment, I simply can't close the trades in profit or loss, and I don't know why. Yeah. The fight, this never wants to roll off my tongue. Fight or flight and freeze. That's another, people have gotten very clever with the fight or flight reaction. Now, a lot of times you'll hear people talking about freeze, fight, flight, or freeze. And I'm the same, Marina. I was up one time in a trade, a significant R multiple, like a multiple that I don't typically, it was 7R. And I froze and watched it go all the way back to a loss. Like, I know that's terrible, but it happens to me too. And my husband was like, what the heck were you thinking? You don't do that. And I just froze. I just froze. That's all I can say. I just froze. I did nothing. And it's frustrating to look back and think that makes no sense. That's not even a struggle for you. What were you doing? Right? This aspect of ourselves is just part of who we are as humans. And I cannot guarantee that watching this a million times and focusing all your energy on psychology and, doing, meditating all day long, I cannot guarantee that this will ever go away for you, because it won't. It won't. Just like I said on this picture here, this is really an important picture to me as well. Method check, management check, mindset. Maybe it's not clear what I was trying to convey with the hourglass, but the computers, like when it's thinking, it puts the little hourglass on there, like, yeah, it's working, it's working, it's working, it's working. That never goes away. Now, you can get better at it and you can reduce it. And I think for me, and I suspect for other people too, understanding. So having an understanding of what is going on helps me. To understand something on an intellectual level helps me do the right things, but not 100% of the time. And I suspect that's true for everyone. And so even, again, I don't want to speak for ICT, but if I had to guess, his method, his management, box checked. But even for ICT, I suspect mindset is never checked. It's just not. That's what makes us human, is that we have these, we have this incredible power to think and, executive functioning and problem solving, all these great things, but we're also prone to error, and that's just part of it. And so my goal would be for myself and for you and for anyone watching is like, look, we're not trying to create perfection in your mindset, but if we can just reduce those errors and those mistakes and those challenges somewhat, you could be a beast out there, a trading beast for sure. So that's the goal. And also grace with yourself is really important. That's a part of my mindset and trading psychology as well. When you do something wrong, I talked last week about the coin flip. And when you take a trade, you reset after you take that trade. It's like that too. I took a 7R win and turned it into a 1R loss, did nothing. Luckily, I had my stop in place and I didn't change it or, take it off or anything crazy like that. But those things are not, this was a while ago. This wasn't recent, but trading beast. Yeah, we can be trading beast. It's true. And when I say trading beast, it doesn't need to be us driving our Bugatti, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, or, our supercars or whatever. And we don't need to take 10R wins or even 7R wins. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. It's just this machine that executes the method, the proper risk management over and over again. And we just have to keep the best mindset we can and reduce errors in that regard the best we can. And that's enough. That's enough. Russell said, Marina, yes, I have the same thing. I actually have good risk management too, which is funny. My issue is over trading, revenge trading to get my P&L. I can't take losses. Yeah. Well, hopefully here, Russell, you learned something that can help you. You know, and if you're still not convinced, then maybe your job this week, and for me, typically it takes like 2 weeks to a month to really say, okay, I've got that under control, is telling yourself, right, the thoughts that you have. So instead of saying, my issue is over trading, revenge trading, I can't take losses. If nothing else today, Russell, maybe I can give you this one thing. So instead of what you just said, you're saying, my issue has been over trading. My issue has been revenge trading. My issue has been not taking losses. And now I'm going to do different. Okay. So moving forward, I will do different. All right. I know it sounds frou-frou psychology. I know, but just bear with me. Even if you don't believe it, okay, I know this is a valid trade. You said yourself you risk appropriately, okay? I know it's a valid trade. I know I risked appropriately. And you hear me say this all the time. Okay, good. You'll give it a shot. I know it's a valid trade. I know I risked appropriately. And then the third part is key. Every professional trader takes losses. If you want to play the game, you have to take losses. And if you think about it logically, it's absolutely true. You cannot trade without taking a loss. You cannot. It's impossible, okay? Because there's no guarantee in the market. There is none. Have you ever read a book by any professional trader that said, yeah, I was really good at what I did and I never took a loss? Never. It's not a thing. YouTubers might say that, but not actual traders, right? Jesse Livermore, one of the most famous, most successful traders of all time, blew up his account multiple times. He lost everything. In the end, he lost his life over it. And I always wonder, I wish I could know from him and his trading, was it the management, the risk management? He risked too much. I think he did sometimes. But I also suspect that the trading mindset also got the best of him sometimes as well. Congratulations, Russell. That's so exciting. I'm going to put that up so everybody can see. Russell said he just passed his 3 top step evals earlier today, so I better get this under control now. Wow. Congratulations, Russell. That is so exciting. You will get this under control. You will. Okay. And if you don't feel confident that you're ready to do that, maybe risk less. You said you have good risk management. Maybe start out risking less and really make it your goal to, sorry, this is unsolicited advice, but maybe make it your goal to say, okay, I already know I've got the method and management under control. That's good. But I'm going to prove to myself that I can have, the proper mindset as well. And so even though you potentially could risk bigger, like maybe you're in a place where you could risk bigger, maybe that's part of your mindset challenge to yourself, is to really reduce your risk to test your mindset and to see how clean you can actually trade. I know for me, that's what I'm working on as well, because I passed my top step challenge or trading combine, and I'm on my second one, and it's in drawdown. And so for me, I'm focused on, look, I know my method works. I know my management is good. I'm attempting to eliminate mistakes. That's still my dominant trading theme, and really get my mindset under control. Because when I go into drawdown, that is a more challenge for me. If I never hit drawdown, it's easy, right? It's when I get into drawdown or I have a significant string of losses that I start to get flustered and really have to like double, triple down on my trading psychology. So congratulations though, Russell. That's so exciting. I'm so happy for you. Super happy for you.